I wasn't gonna say that. All right, so I guess, I've heard I don't really need to interview you, but I would just say,
No.
okay, would it help? So I would say one thing, well, first of all, why don't you just introduce yourselves?
Charlie Wielgosh
Pat Wielgosh.
Peg, oh gosh,
or Butch.
or Butch.
Or Butch.
Mike, can you move over more or
Okay.
get in the?
And so, from a history standpoint, maybe you could tell us what you know about how did the Wielgoshes end up in Princeton, Wisconsin? And then wherever that goes from there, you guys can just take it.
As far back as I know was
Yeah, you tell him.
Anthony, right?
Anton,
Anton, yeah,
I think he started it,
right.
and
Where did he come from, do you know?
came from Poland,
Poland, okay.
Poland, Germany, because the borders switched and went back and forth.
Right. This is pre-World War One, probably.
Yeah, and then he started contacting relatives, and I think that's how Princeton really got going, because a lot of people from Poland said this seems like farm country, and then they'd send one person over, and then they'd write letters back, and all of a sudden more and more people were coming from that particular area.
And so Anton would be your great, how would he be related to you guys?
Oh,
He was our great-grandfather.
Right.
Great-grandfather, okay.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Right, am I right on that?
Okay.
Okay. And he's the one that was in World War One. He's the one that we lost, what?
I can't hear you, Butch.
Are you gonna talk at all?
I'm waiting for you to finish that.
Okay, well, speak up.
Go ahead.
But anyway, I think there was somebody before Anton. I should have brought my family tree stuff, but I think Anton was preceded by someone. And you're no help at all.
No,
Forget
I
it.
only know Anthony. That's as far back as I
Okay.
know.
Well, he was in World War One. He came back, he married our grandmother, Grandma,
Justine.
yes,
Gusty.
Gusty. And this was during the Depression. I think they married around 23, 24, something like that. And they raised 3 children. So Charlie's dad is my dad's brother, and there was a third brother. The oldest was Rudy, and Charlie's dad was Leonard, and mine was Norbert. And as the years went by, in 1933, he tragically died. He drowned in the Fox River. If you go out on 23 by the McCann Outfitters,
Yeah.
across the street there, the Fox River, he had the boys. He had all 3 boys. And I read the obituary that you put in the Princeton paper a year ago, which was really nice. I think you had something to do with that, Vicki, but I don't think Grandma at the time was with them. I think it was just
Just them and the boys.
the boys. And they watched him go down in the river and drowned, and then they all walked back into town. And at the time they lived near the Western House, about 3 houses down. And I could only imagine how their feelings were going back to the house. So this was during the Depression, and I always think of this was during the Depression, 1933. He had a good paying job at the time working for the county, and they sent him out. He had his own team of horses. He would go up and down 23 cleaning debris and things off. I don't know what other roads he took care of, but that was apparently a great job in the Depression. And when he died, Grandma had nothing. I don't think there was Social Security. She couldn't get a pension at the time. And so she had to raise those 3 boys by herself. And I know she took in laundry. She had a garden. I don't know what else she did, but my dad always used to tell me, Butch, he said, we were poor, but we didn't know how poor we were because there was always food on the table. So I know they raised themselves kind of like that.
Wow,
And,
that's a real testament to your grandmother.
yeah.
She
I
was a
think
strong
she worked
lady.
at the overall factory too, in town.
Pardon me?
Didn't she? She worked at the overall factory
Where we used to live?
where you used to.
I know it was an overall factory, but if she ever worked there, I was never aware of it.
That's
I heard that she had mentioned that. but
Really?
I don't know how long, but she was there, maybe it was before Grandpa died or right after, you know. But yeah, she mentioned that.
How old were the boys when he passed?
My dad was 8.
No, I
Your dad-
think my dad was 9. I think he just turned 9, and your
Okay.
dad was older than mine.
And they were
so-
about a year apart.
Yeah, because my dad was born in 24, and Grandpa died. Walter Ladislaus Wielgosh was Anton's father. He's the one that came over from Poland,
Right.
because we tried to find his death certificate, and I went to the Catholic Church, and I went to Green Lake, and you tried to find it. And we finally found out it wasn't under Ladislaus Walter, it was under Walter. And they spelled his name wrong, incorrectly. So records weren't very great,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
back in the 20s and 30s, but that's how they traced him back.
And we have some memorabilia that was donated, I think, by your sister at the museum from World War I, some of the memorabilia from that gentleman,
Right, yep.
from your grandfather's.
And that was, can't remember what it all included.
Had a gas mask, a
Yeah,
helmet,
that was one of them.
trunk.
It had a horse, feeding bag for
Right.
the horses,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Grandma did a hell of a job raising them 3 boys. And they helped out, they did odds and ends around town and made a buck here.
well, yeah, and I remember in the summers, Dad said that Rudy, the oldest, always went and worked on a farm of one of the uncles, so he was gone all summer long working and making money and baling hay and whatever else they did, but it was also one less mouth to feed. And in the wintertime, they'd live out of what they had canned
Right.
out of the garden in the summer, and I don't know what else
Wow.
they had.
And at one point, the boys worked at Lasonia Golf Course,
Yes, they did, they
Caddy.
did.
and they'd walk all the way out there. And-
Wow.
And Dad said they'd carry anything from 36 to 72 holes a day,
Yeah,
and then walk back home. And some of the experiences were quite comical. I can remember Dad saying, this one lady asked, "How many strokes have I got, Caddy?" And when he told her, the other boys started laughing. So that kind of ruined their tip. It was like a nickel if they did good, you know.
yeah.
But they did that for quite, and that helped.
And
Grandma.
sometimes they would hitch a ride coming back to town. Some guy on his horse would be coming from Green Lake over to Princeton. They would sneak a ride with him, come back.
And that was limited, that was like, probably like Memorial Day through end of September, well, when school started.
Yeah.
Because then they went
Yeah.
back to school.
Wow.
Yeah. School days, they all went up to St. John's Catholic. They were all altar boys,
They were all altar boys. We have some pictures of them as altar boys.
yeah,
Always good to have proof.
yeah, and they always had their own scary stories.
Were you guys altar boys?
Yeah.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we were.
Yeah, we never got
Quite
kicked out.
Angelic.
Yes,
us.
we were.
Yes, we were. We behaved.
It would, they called them cruets where the wine and water were in.
I didn't do that.
And
afraid you
I'll
get
never
close.
forget, Father would hold the chalice out, and you'd pop the 2 little glass cups on and you'd pour it in, and he had his hands there. And then when he had enough wine, he'd go like that for you to stop. And we'd start pouring, and he wasn't stopping, so we'd quit, and then he'd go more. Because we were kind of looking out for ourselves.
No. There was one of the scandals in grade school was all the altar boys who had been sampling the wine unbeknownst to anybody had to stand up and were called out for that. Well, you were part of that group, weren't you?
I might have been, but.
That's what I figured. And go ahead.
And that was only part, we also were in charge of lighting the candles, remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I
And
do.
on Sunday masses, them candles were probably 10, 12 foot up there. And they gave you this real long thing to light them. And the hard part was putting them out after church. They gave you this little round hoop on the end, and you were supposed to lob it over and then push this rubber ball that was gonna put them out, you know.
It was gonna
We
puff some
did,
air through
a
it.
couple jumped and fell, but,
Yeah.
yeah. Grade school is a whole different experience.
My memories of grade school are, you know, we'd go up to school at like 7 in the morning or 7:15 to get ready. And that's why I brought these things, because this is very timely.
Now, what years were you in grade school?
I started at age 5, so I must have been around 53.
Okay.
So we'd walk up there.
Did they hold you over any years?
I was not held back any
Okay.
years. Thanks for asking that,
I
though.
was just wondering. Go ahead.
And, you know, we take our cold breakfasts with us, because we always went to mass and communion, then came back, we ate our cold breakfast, then we would eat our lunch. There was no hot lunch program or anything like that. And there was something that we called the bike patrol after school, and the walking patrol. So this was at the grade school. I don't remember how many kids there were, but
It was an honor to get to do that.
I never got to lead it.
Didn't you? I did. The nuns liked me better.
You know, 95% of my childhood, Charlie's folks would ask me to keep him out of trouble. All summer long, they were always calling, saying, try to keep him out of trouble.
You had, it was weird, because you had the bike patrol, and then if you brought your bike to school, if you were honored enough, what it amounted to is you would lead the bikes down, and we only went as far as the Fox River Bridge. And
Did they stop there?
Yeah.
I never went that far.
Oh. And after that, you were on your own. Same way with the walking patrol.
So there was a long line of bikes, all the
Right.
kids, from
Right.
starting with the 8th graders back down to the.
And on the
sprinkled in.
walking patrol, when you get to a street, if someone had to live up the block, like on 3rd Street or 2nd, everyone would stop, and then you as the leader would stop, get them across the road, and then take off again.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite an honor.
That is.
This is my lunchbox from those days.
Yes. it was.
You didn't,
Use
you
this
didn't
in high
tell them
school.
that you guys grew up right alongside each
We
other.
lived right next to each other,
Yeah.
okay, so our dads bought houses right next to each other. So we spent
So
a
you
lot
start-
of time.
So who's older? Maybe that's not a
I'm
good
older.
question. You're older, okay.
I'm older.
You're 53, and then you
Oh,
probably.
God bless you.
No, you said you started school too.
Oh, I started.
You're not that old.
Yeah, I started in 53.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a year behind.
Oh, you're 1 year behind.
You
Okay.
went to school, were you in the church basement?
Yes. The first 4 years, I think.
Well, for me, it was the first 5 years.
It could
Probably,
have been.
yeah, 4 years.
4
years,
for me.
so
He was held back.
One, no, I was a year older than him. So one room had 2 classes, 1st and 2nd
On
grade.
the left-hand side, it was 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, then the middle room had grades 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep. And then on the right, the bigger room had the 7th and 8th graders.
Right.
And that's where, what was her name, Sister Renata,
Sister Renata, she was the principal and
the main nun.
the scariest of all 3 of them.
And if you got called in there, it was not good news.
Never want to go
It
see
was always-
Sister
no.
Renata,
And it was
no.
in front of the whole 7th and 8th grade
And
class.
how those nuns managed to keep track of all of us, and
Yeah.
they'd move from one class to another, trying to, you know, you'd have this subject, then she'd move on to the next grade and teach them a subject, and somehow it worked.
Yeah.
Which brings up this story.
Oh, jeez.
This
I can't
story,
remember the room where that happened.
this involves me. I was in the middle room, and Charlie was there. In the back of the room, we had no air conditioning, so we had these tall windows in the back. And she would send people back there with
It was
this.
an honor.
It was an honor. I don't know how I got that, but this is the actual metal thing that you use to raise or lower the window if it was hot or cold, you know. So one day she sent me back there, and I had it. And unbeknownst to me, she had snuck up behind me. So as I either opened or lowered the window, whatever I was doing, I turned around, swung around with it, and she was right there. Right there. And I hit her right in the glasses. So,
They went up there. Put them up there?
yeah, she never forgave me for that.
Oh, they got stuck on there? And he
Yeah,
put-
they were on. When he brought it up to the top of the window there, they
Are
found.
these her glasses too?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not. Okay.
And,
And she never forgave me for that.
you know, and he got a SWAT. He kinda cringed, he knew what was coming. And
The
Donna found
nuns were
that,
not afraid to slap you or spank you or keep you after school. And in those days, your mother and father said, yeah, you deserved it.
and if they got called up, there was what they called the furnace room.
Oh, geez,
Yeah,
yes.
and if your dad had to go up there for a meeting with the nuns,
Not
and
good.
you had to go back there, it was not pretty,
No.
no. It was not. We had a couple cool, we had, Sister Liberta, the old one, yeah, she was scary.
Yeah.
And we had a young one, though, Sister Mary Tina, she was young, she barely out. Really polite, nice to the kids, she, you know,
I never had her.
didn't you? I did. But anyway, it was, and you know what, it was nothing, it was a good learning experience, never harmed us.
It was.
It was, yeah, you learned a lot there, and you learned a lot of respect and how to behave. And if you didn't,
Yeah,
you
you
knew the
did.
consequences, and the last thing you did was go back and tell your dad that the nun hit you, because then he'd swat you again.
Yeah, yeah, because then you'd get a
That's how
double.
that works,
So it's
yeah.
best just to keep your mouth shut when you
Yep.
go home, don't say
Go on.
anything.
Okay, moving on.
So growing up in Princeton was an experience like, I mean, there's probably 10,000 communities like Princeton, but for us, it was a small town where there wasn't a lot of crime or drugs or traffic problems. And when we were little, we never had that much money that, I mean, we didn't have electronics like kids do today. And I don't know, maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. I think kids today are a lot smarter.
Oh, wait a
but we-
minute.
Well, compared to us, they were. But we would create our own virtual reality world, and we'd go outside to do it, and it kind of seems like it's a punishment today to kids to have. You're gonna go outside, get out of the house, you know, but we didn't have electronics, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have cell phones, we barely had a landline, and
The best thing we had when
we
we
had a
were
party
kids.
line.
Remember our dads talked Gabe Weir into building that pontoon boat?
Yeah, yeah.
They built a
Sure.
pontoon boat out of 50-gallon drums. And Gabe Weir worked at Chris Craft in Berlin, so he had the cones for the front. And they had a little 10 or 18 horse motor, and they put it on the river. But they only ran it for a year or two, and they kind of got tired of it. So we inherited it. And,
You wrecked it.
yeah, we did. We'd take a few parties on it.
Yeah.
And before, we didn't have a motor, I'll never forget. It was anchored up there right below the bridge. Mashuda's had this big vacant lot, and we had it tied up there. And at one point, our dads didn't have a motor on it, so we thought we could take it out, and we had long poles. But with the current, that didn't work real well.
Was I with you when
Yeah,
you did that?
Yeah, there was a few, Tom Rule was with us.
Oh,
There was a
jeez.
few of us.
It's a bad.
So you're doing okay with the current, right?
Well, yeah, but as soon as you released it from the bank, you were headed toward Berlin.
We weren't
We
sure.
didn't want to go there. You know, that was the bad part.
Which is another thing, because at that time, when we were really young, the McCann River flowed behind the Princeton, the Catholic picnic grounds, and then it went under 23 to where you see the bridge on Main Street there, and it flowed past Charlie's house to a grading that went underneath the county, that's D, right, going
Yeah.
towards Berlin. It went under D, and there was an electric building there.
The powerhouse.
And I don't know if they gathered power or not. or if
Yeah,
it
they
was-
generated
They
power.
did generate power, okay, and then it flowed down below that to behind both of our houses, to where that electric fenced area is. And it would gather there and then drain into the Fox River.
Yep.
But that was always fascinating for us as little kids. We'd go down there and catch carp, and
And the
just
water in
mess
there was
around
just
and-
crystal clear.
it was very clear.
Yeah. And no one ever, amazing, where D is, the mill ditch was maybe 5 foot off the road. No car ever drove in there, no one ever.
No
drowned.
kids ever drowned,
No,
you especially.
I know, but, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
And that got filled
never
in.
caught a good fish out of it either.
No. And I can remember when they filled it in, heavy construction got the job and filled it in. And now if you go up Canal Street, it still comes through and it empties out just above the bridge here now. The McCann does. But it used to be routed both ways. If there was too much going to the powerhouse, then they'd route it around and come out by dredging.
When you guys were young, they were still dredging the river, weren't they?
Yep. It one, or not as often, but the
So
DNR
it's deeper.
would come through with a barge. They'd start like by Homro.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they'd come up all the way up as far as Princeton Dam, and then they'd go up and they'd get where the river come in the Puckaway. And, because it was silt in, I don't know if you remember that, Rich, but they'd come in and we got to meet a few of the guys, my dad knew some of them. And they worked for the,
You making this up?
no, I'm trying to think who they worked for. It wasn't the DNR.
Corps of Engineers.
There you go, Corps of Engineers. And these guys were all over from Illinois, one was from Wyoming, and somehow they'd stay here because they were here all summer doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people would meet them, and they'd go out with them and get to know them
Where would they put the dirt then, just on the bank or?
over the banks.
Okay.
Well, that's another thing, because next to our house, we live next to Charlie, and next to us was just a huge empty lot with like a kind of a marshy area.
Yeah.
All the way to the Fox River, so where that apartment complex is now became all filled in during my early years, like, I
That
don't
was
know, maybe
probably
8, 9, 10, something like that.
Probably 6, 8 foot.
Yeah,
below where
they
it
just
was
kept
now.
bringing dump trucks and they filled it all in and then they built the apartment complex. But that was a play area too, where we just looked for trouble.
We found it.
Yeah,
Moving on, when we went to high school, at that point, sports were the big thing. Everyone participated. Rich was our star catcher on the baseball team. We played football, or tried to.
it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was good.
Pretty
But those were the
bad.
two main things that kept
Pretty bad.
everyone, and basketball, them were the three main sports. There was nothing else. And that's how you filled your time. And odds and end jobs. In the summer, there was always work if you wanted it.
I was so bad at baseball that they made me a catcher after you graduated.
That was,
And I wore glasses since I was like sixth grade, something like that. As a catcher, you didn't wear glasses. You had that mask over your face. I could never see the ball coming.
you spent more time running back to the cage getting it.
I got hit a lot. It was, they couldn't find another spot to put me.
That was it. After high school, moving on, you ain't got any more about nothing good you can tell.
No.
Okay.
So
No,
where
I
the
did
high
not.
school you went to, was that,
They had just built it here. I don't know if you went to the old one here at all, Rich.
No, no. It was new when I came here.
Right, okay,
Would have been what?
yeah.
60,
I think I was in
61, I think.
fourth or fifth grade when they built it there.
built it, okay.
Built the new one. So we didn't go, I went in, what, 63, right? You must have been 62.
Yeah, 62.
Yeah. Like I said, sports was the big thing back then.
Mm,
Yeah, we weren't listening.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I was there.
But, and then after high school, you went on to college where?
I went to Stevens Point for 2 years.
Didn't you go to Europe for a year?
I went to Europe for 1 semester, and then I transferred to Madison. Okay, so I graduated in 72 from college, but after I came back from Europe, that was the January of the year 1970. And going backwards a little bit, when we were in high school, in 1965 is when the Vietnam War started to really get hot. And that's when the president, LBJ, he sent like 200,000 young Americans over there. And by 1966, my senior year, it was up to 500,000. And everybody in my grade, and probably the year before and several years after, were afraid because it was a mandatory draft. And if you were 1A and not going to school or not a farmer, unless you had some kind of deferment, you ended up over in Vietnam. So that was a big deal. And a lot of guys went to college to hide there, a lot of people went to Canada, whatever the case may be. But when I came back from Europe, while I was in Europe, they bombed the Math Research Center in Madison.
Oh, that was then, okay.
And that's when they killed that one guy who was working late. And by the time I got there, you know, I'm just trying to get an education, but there's protesters everywhere. They're burning cars, they're flipping cars over. I was tear gassed more than once.
Yeah.
National Guard was there a lot. It's pretty wild.
I spent like 8 weeks, I was in the National Guard.
It was not Princeton.
Huh? No.
It was not like Princeton.
No.
Yeah, you were in the
You
National
didn't
Guard.
gas Pat, did you, Trey?
No,
He probably
you know what?
did. He would have loved to have gassed me.
There were kids across from me that I knew
Oh,
that were
really?
in the protest line, and that was kinda hard.
In fact, that one time you had that egg salad sandwich, you gassed me.
I'll never forget, me and another guy, we got put on the roof near the hospital. We were supposed to keep an eye on activity below us in the street, and here come three kids, and there was a dumpster there. And they were gonna light the dumpster on fire. And we had tear gas grenades. So about the time they were gonna light it, I pulled a pin and I lobbed the gas grenade over and it went off and they were choking and running. We were laughing and laughing. Little did we know the wind carried into the university hospital. So that was the last of our roof duty. We were put on the street. Okay, so anyway, then you finished, how many years of college? Took you forever.
Took me forever, 4.5.
Yeah.
It was a long war.
Well, actually, I got in a motorcycle accident before
Oh,
I
yeah.
started college. So I got in a bad motorcycle accident. I broke my leg.
You didn't break it, it got mushed.
It got mushed. I was laid up for a year.
Was
And
that-
I ended up with a 1Y rating, which is physically handicapped. Not mentally, physically.
Was that before or after Chris?
My accident was right before Chris.
Right before. Because we all had motorcycles. We had these little 90 Bridgestones
Yeah, they
that
were
sounded
much-
like bees
they were
coming out
nothing.
the street. Remember, you had a Honda, I think, didn't you? But Chris, yeah, he had that, I'll never
160.
forget, it was out here on Zils's corner.
Got killed, no, he got killed by our.
Yeah, but Butch's, he was out by Zils's out here.
Yeah,
and he was
that's
trying
Jay,
to-
isn't it?
Yeah, a D out here, and you were
Not-
trying to turn around. No, not, Chris was out on D.
Okay.
But Butch was out here on J,
Yeah.
and he got hit right in the leg by another motorcycle. I'll never forget that. And then,
Well, that laid me up for a year,
Oh.
but it also kept me out of the draft because
Yeah.
that rating means you're not gonna serve.
yeah, you were in rough shape. But I got the dirty job. I had to go up, his dad owned the Western House. And I had to go up and tell him that Butch was laying on the road. And that was not a pretty sight. I'll never forget. And it wasn't that long after it. I'll never forget, I think it was a Friday. We had a good friend, Chris Colosino, and he was headed to town, and where Jay goes on, about 2 miles out of town, and then it's called Holmes Road. It goes up, there used to be a greenhouse out there. Anyway, Chris was coming into town, and this lady, it was like 5 in the evening, she was looking into the sun and never seen Chris and turned right in front of him. And when I got out there, he laid on the road, and he lived for a week,
He
2.
lived for a week or so, but
We went and seen him.
brain
He was in-
damage,
yeah. His head was
terrible.
Anyway, so he ended up passing. So it was a rough summer between Butch and him. And I kind of put a damper on all the motorcycle traveling. We have
Did for me.
Bikes, yeah, it did for most everyone. And then graduation, you went where? Did you go to Europe first or then Point?
I
How did
went
it-
to Stevens Point for 2 years, then Europe, and then I graduated from Madison.
And after that, you moved to Milwaukee.
I moved to Milwaukee in '72, so I've been there for over 50 years. And, you know, you talk about Princeton, I was thinking, what do I say to these people that night? Because my life was not that much different than anybody's life, but when Kay and I were raising our 3 kids, we'd come back to see mom and dad, and you don't realize the pressure of living in a bigger city until you start to come and visit a smaller city. And you guys came from Chicago, so you know that. It's like, as the miles went closer and closer to Princeton, the tension was less and less because you didn't have to worry about the traffic. And I'm so glad I'm retired now, because it was, at the end, it was terrible just walking across the street downtown because nobody is obeying the stop and go lights anymore. There's hit and run accidents all the time. Nobody stops. I mean, I had to do some FedEx things this weekend, and I met a lady that I never even had known before. I said I'd been up north, and she said, "Oh, it's so wonderful up there because people care." It's
So you
just,
still live in Milwaukee then? You still live in
Oh, I
Milwaukee?
still live in
You still live,
Milwaukee.
okay.
I still live.
But,
But I have a place in Watoma too.
Okay,
I have a place there.
okay.
But it's a different lifestyle up here. It's an easier type of living, and people do care a little more. It's not,
I agree.
you don't have shootings every day, every night, and kids shooting kids. And so there's a lot to be said for that.
And going back when we were kids, I wanted to bring it up, I forgot. Our 3 dads, or our dads and Uncle Rudy, your dad and Mud Rule, they ran the Western House here in town. And I just was in there having a sandwich,
Yeah.
and they got a plaque up there with all the
Diet
years.
sodas, both of us. We had a couple diet sodas.
yeah, I
Keep
can
your weight
smell
down.
that.
Keep your weight down.
Yeah, oh yeah,
But anyway, they got a plaque up there that lists all the different
I saw
people.
that.
Yeah, ain't that neat?
Yeah,
It's pretty
that is
neat.
nice.
And anyway, Mud and him, his dad, they worked together for quite a few years.
Yeah,
And then Mud
from
went in.
46 until the 60s sometime.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Mud went into selling insurance, and your dad bought him out and ran the
Right,
Western House.
with my mother
Right,
until, I don't know, what did that say, like around 1980 somewhere?
Summers in
Somewhere
there, yeah.
Yeah,
And you helped tend bar in the summers.
it's the greatest job I ever had.
We'd go up there and get free beer.
I don't remember that part of it.
Yeah, but anyway, and my dad started out as a mechanic in town here, where the bank is next to the ice bowl, was Shakurki Dodge Garage. And he was a mechanic there most of his life.
Yeah,
And then probably when he was 50 or so, they shut the garage down, he went to Speed Queen and retired out of there. And Uncle Rudy worked for the city for a while, power guy, worked climbing poles, and then he went and moved to Fond du Lac,
he moved to Fond du Lac, yeah.
and he retired out of the Sioux Railroad line.
What did your dads do for the service?
Your dad was in the
My-
Navy.
My dad was
That
in the
was World
Navy.
War